He was a billionaire tech CEO, polished, powerful, and completely in control of his world. Until the night he stepped into a rideshare and locked eyes with the woman he secretly loved 20 years ago. But she wasn't just any driver. She was the one he let go, the one who never stopped loving him. And now she could destroy everything he's built, or save his soul. What happens when the past crashes into the future, and love demands a second chance? If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's jump into the story. Julian Carter stood alone in his office on the 39th floor of Carter Innovations, gazing out at the flickering lights of Chicago. The clock on the wall showed it was almost midnight. Another long day. Another board meeting full of numbers, faces, and empty smiles. He loosened the tie around his neck, feeling like it was slowly choking him. He picked up his phone to call his driver, only to remember that Dean had taken a week off to visit family in Arizona. Julian sighed, rubbing his temples. He could either wait for an assistant to find someone else or book a ride himself. After a moment, he opened the rideshare app and tapped to request a pickup. Outside, the night air was cool. The breeze carried the smell of rain and distant food trucks closing, up for the night. Julian waited by the curb, pulling his coat tighter around him. A dark blue sedan pulled up moments later. He stepped inside without looking up. "Good evening. Where to?" came a soft, calm voice from the front. "Lakeview Tower, please," Julian said, leaning back into the leather seat. But then he paused. Something about that voice made him freeze. Warm. Familiar. Like a memory that had been waiting quietly for years. He leaned forward slightly. The driver's profile was in shadow, but her voice had already taken him back 2 decades. "Sorry, what's your name?" he asked, trying not to sound too eager. The driver glanced at him through the mirror. Her eyes widened, just slightly. "Naomi. Naomi Brooks." His heart skipped a beat. "Naomi Brooks," he repeated, barely above a whisper. She turned fully, now eyes meeting his. "Julian Carter?" Her voice broke on his name, surprised and full of emotion. Suddenly, the years melted away. 20 years ago, they'd been students at Lakeside University. Julian, the shy business major with a mountain of pressure on his shoulders. Naomi, the brilliant literature student with a laugh that lit up any room. They'd fallen for each other slowly, tenderly, until the weight of Julian's family expectations pulled them apart. "It's really you?" Julian said quietly. "You've changed," she said with a small smile, turning her eyes back to the road. "But not too much. You haven't changed at all," he replied, though she had. Her hair was shorter now, pulled into a neat bun. Faint lines touched the corners of her eyes, and her clothes were simple. But her presence, her calm and steady way, was the same. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Outside, the city buzzed quietly, unaware of the quiet storm inside the car. "I always thought you'd be a writer," Julian said finally. Naomi laughed, but it sounded tired. "I thought I would be too. Life had other plans. I got pregnant, just before graduation. Things shifted." "You have a child?" he asked softly. "A daughter, Sophia. She just finished college last spring, studying architecture." Julian was quiet for a moment. The thought of Naomi raising a child on her own, working, surviving, while he had climbed boardrooms and built his fortune, hit him hard. "You did it all by yourself?" he asked. "Mostly. Had help here and there. But yeah, it's been me, and her." He leaned back again, absorbing the news. "I had no idea. We lost touch," she said simply. "You went off to grad school, and your parents made sure I stayed in my place." He remembered the conversations, the warnings, the lectures about class, image, and what kind of woman was right for someone like him. He had been too weak, then too afraid to stand up. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. "That was a long time ago," she replied. "You don't owe me anything." But her voice was tight, like the wound wasn't quite closed. They reached his building. The car rolled to a smooth stop, and neither of them moved for a moment. "Naomi, would you ever want to meet for coffee sometime?" The words came out before he could stop them. She looked at him, her face unreadable. Coffee? Just to talk, to catch up, as old friends. A beat passed. Then she nodded slowly and handed him a small notepad from the console. She wrote down her number and tore the page carefully. Think about what you're asking, she said, voice steady. You've changed. I've changed. And there are reasons we didn't work the first time. He took the paper. Their fingers brushed. The touch was light, but it burned. I've thought about you for years, he said softly. She looked at him for a long second. Then call me, she said, if you really mean it. He stepped out of the car, watching as it drove off into the night. In the back seat, Naomi's hands trembled slightly. Of all the rides in Chicago that night, it had to be Julian Carter, the boy who had once promised her forever, before reality shattered their little world, and now he was back. Naomi didn't know what would happen next, but as she drove on, her heart beat just a little faster than before. Naomi Brooks stared at her phone the next morning, her thumb hovering over Julian Carter's name. She hadn't slept much. After their unexpected ride, memories had flooded her like a tide she couldn't hold back. She remembered the way he used to laugh, how he always carried a pen in his pocket, and how he used to walk her home in the rain without an umbrella. But that had been another life. Her daughter Sophia walked into the kitchen, still in pajamas, with a cup of instant coffee in her hand. Mom, are you okay? You're staring at your phone like it just insulted you. Naomi blinked. I ran into someone last night. Someone from a long time ago. Someone like who? Julian Carter. Sophia nearly dropped her cup. Wait, the tech billionaire Julian Carter? The guy on magazine covers? That Julian Carter? He wasn't a billionaire back then, Naomi said quietly. He was just a shy guy who needed help passing economics, and now he's a CEO with his own skyscraper, Sophia said. What did he say? He asked me to have coffee. And? I haven't decided yet. Sophia leaned across the table. Mom, go. You've been working nonstop since forever. What's the worst that could happen? Naomi sighed, then finally texted back. Coffee sounds good, but not at a fancy place. Meet me at Roosevelt Diner noon. An hour later, Julian stood outside the small diner, nervous in a way he hadn't felt in years. He had worn a simple gray sweater and dark jeans, trying not to look like someone who lived in a penthouse. When Naomi arrived, she wore a navy coat, jeans, and a soft scarf around her neck. Her hair was pulled back and she looked tired but calm. You came, he said. I said I would, she replied. I keep my promises. They sat at a corner booth, the kind with red cushions that squeaked when you moved. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, brought menus and smiled at them. You two on a lunch date? She asked playfully. Julian opened his mouth, but Naomi spoke first. Just catching up. The woman chuckled. Well, I'll give you a minute. Naomi smiled politely, but as soon as the waitress left, she looked back at Julian. You still hate coffee? Still pretend to like it in public, he admitted. I'll stick with tea. They both laughed. So, Julian said, stirring his tea with a sugar packet, you really have a daughter in architecture? Yeah. Sophia. She just graduated. You raised her on your own? For the most part, Naomi said. I had some help from my friend Marta when things got really tight, but it was mostly just me and Sophia. Julian nodded slowly. She's lucky to have you. Naomi looked down at her cup. It wasn't always easy. I worked at a bakery during the day and cleaned offices at night for a while. The driving job came later once she got older. I'm sorry, he said softly. I should have tried to find you after school. I didn't even know you were pregnant. You couldn't have known, she said. I didn't tell anyone. I was scared, and your family made it clear I didn't belong. Julian's jaw tightened. My father made a lot of things clear. I wasn't angry, Naomi added. Not really, just heartbroken. He reached across the table but stopped himself. Naomi, I never stopped thinking about you. I know that sounds dramatic. It doesn't, she interrupted. Because I thought about you too. But then I had to stop. I couldn't let my head stay in a place that no longer existed. Julian looked at her with something close to awe. You've always been stronger than me. Naomi chuckled, then changed the subject. So what about you? Wife? Kids? No, kids. Divorced 4 years ago. It was more of a business arrangement than a love story. Must have made your father happy. Julian smiled sadly. He's still trying to run my life. We have a merger meeting tomorrow with Westland Tech, and he's already dropping hints about me and their executive partner, Tessa Ford, very polished. Very approved. Let me guess, Naomi said. The kind of woman who wears pearls to bed. Pretty much, Julian laughed. But she's not you. Naomi looked out the window. We're very different now, Julian. You live in a world of meetings, suits, and big decisions. I drive a car for a living. That doesn't mean we can't have something real, he said quickly. Look, I know we can't go back to who we were, but maybe we can figure out who we are now, together. Naomi studied his face for a long moment. You're serious? Completely. This isn't a movie, Julian. There's no background music or clean happy ending. I know. And if we try this and it falls apart again, then we'll know, he said. But I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been. She exhaled slowly. One step at a time. Dinner. No pressure. Nothing. Fancy. Diner food again? He asked. Absolutely, she said. They smiled at each other, and for the first time in years, something warm flickered between them. Something that felt like hope. 3 days had passed since Julian and Naomi shared dinner at the small Italian restaurant she loved. They'd talked for hours. About their past, about Sophia, and about the quiet sadness that had followed them both for years. For the first time in a long while, Naomi had gone to bed with a soft smile and a feeling that maybe, just maybe, her heart had a second chance. But peace didn't last. Early on Friday morning, Naomi's phone buzzed while she was preparing coffee. It was Marta, her landlord and closest friend. Turn on the news, Marta said sharply. Now. Naomi switched on the small kitchen television. The screen showed Julian's photo next to a headline that made her stomach drop. CEO's secret. Romance with rideshare driver sparks scandal ahead of merger vote. Naomi stared, frozen, as the reporter spoke. Anonymous sources say Julian Carter, head of Carter Innovations, has been seen publicly with a former flame who now works as a driver. In Chicago, critics say the relationship may be damaging the company's reputation, especially as Carter prepares for a billion-dollar merger. Oh no, Naomi whispered. Her phone started buzzing nonstop. Unknown numbers, social media notifications, even her supervisor at the rideshare company texted, politely suggesting she take a break from driving for a few days. Just then, Sophia came out of her room, still in her pajamas. Mom, what's going on? Naomi didn't answer at first. She just stared at the screen, heart pounding. You're all over the internet, Sophia said, checking her phone. People are calling you a gold digger, saying you trapped him. Some of these comments are disgusting. Naomi turned the TV off. I never wanted this. You didn't do anything wrong, Sophia said. You saw someone from your past, someone you cared about. But now it's everywhere, Naomi said. And it's hurting. His company. Across town, in a sleek office filled with glass walls and sharp suits, Julian sat in silence as a team of executives argued around him. We told you to keep things quiet, one board member said. This relationship is affecting the merger. And, now's another added, there's talk of financial misconduct. Someone leaked altered records that make it look like you've been hiding funds. Julian's head spun. That's not true. Doesn't matter, the board member said. It's out there. Perception is what counts. His father, Edgar, Carter entered the room slowly. His voice was calm but cold. You've let your emotions get in the way, son. Again. Julian stood up. I haven't done anything wrong. You've shown weakness, Edgar said. This merger means everything. If you don't end this, whatever this is with that woman, you'll lose the company. Julian walked out without answering. He didn't need time to think. He already knew what mattered more. That evening, Julian called Naomi. "I'm so sorry," he said the moment she picked up. "This isn't what I wanted for you." "You're the one under fire," Naomi replied. "They're saying horrible things about you. They're saying worse things about you," Julian said quietly. "And that's what makes me sick." Naomi hesitated. "Maybe we should slow down. Maybe you don't need this right now." "Don't say that," he pleaded. "Don't do what we did last time. Don't walk away." "It's not about walking away," Naomi said gently. "It's about protecting you. You're not the one hurting me. It's them. And if I let them control my life again, I'll never forgive myself." Naomi sat on the edge of her bed staring at the floor. "What do we do?" "Meet me tomorrow." "Just you and me," Julian said. "No noise, no headlines, just a walk." Naomi wanted to say yes, but fear wrapped around her like a heavy coat. She ended the call with a promise to think about it. Later that night, Marta knocked on her door holding 2 mugs of tea. "You okay?" she asked. Naomi shrugged. "I feel like I'm back in college, scared, unsure, people telling me I don't belong." Marta sat down beside her. "You've spent 20 years raising a child on your own, working late nights, doing what needed to be done. Don't let the voices of people who don't know you decide how your story ends. I just don't want to ruin his future." "He's a grown man," Marta said firmly. "And he came back to you for a reason." The next morning, Naomi stood in the doorway of her apartment watching the rain fall gently onto the sidewalk. Her phone buzzed with another message from Julian. "No matter what they say, I want this. I want you. Meet me at Grant Park at noon." Naomi looked back into the apartment, where Sophia sat reading on the couch. Her daughter looked up and smiled. "Go," Sophia said. "You've spent your whole life putting other people first. It's okay to choose yourself for once." Naomi stepped out into the soft drizzle, heart pounding, unsure of what would happen next. But she knew one thing for certain. This time, she wasn't going to run away. The rain had stopped by the time Naomi reached Grant Park. The sky was gray, but the breeze was warm. She walked slowly, her hands tucked into the pockets of her coat, unsure of what to expect. Julian was already there, waiting by a bench near the fountain. He wasn't wearing his usual business suit. Just a sweater, jeans, and the same nervous look he used to have before his college exams. When he saw her, he stood up. "You came," he said, his voice soft. "I almost didn't," Naomi replied, stopping in front of him. "But then I remembered how it felt to let you go the first time. I don't want to feel that again." Julian stepped closer. "This week has been a mess, but the one thing I'm sure of is you." "They're still talking about us," Naomi said. "Every headline, every comment, people who don't know me or you." "Let them talk," Julian said. "People always talk, but they don't get to decide our future." She looked at him closely. He looked tired but not defeated. His eyes were steady, filled with something stronger than hope, something real. "My father called an emergency vote with the board," he said. "They want me to step down. They think I've ruined the company's image." Naomi's heart sank. "Because of me?" "No," he said firmly. "Because they're afraid of change. Afraid of what love looks like when it doesn't fit in their perfect box." She sat on the bench and he joined her. For a moment, they just listened to the water splashing nearby. "I've spent years building a company," Julian said. "But what's the point if I have no one to share life with?" "I don't know how to live in your world," Naomi whispered. "Then let's build a new one," he said. The next day, Julian stood in front of the boardroom facing rows of serious faces. His father, Edgar, sat at the end of the table, arms crossed. The vote was minutes away. "Before you decide," Julian said, "I'd like someone else to speak." The board members exchanged looks. Then the door opened. Naomi stepped in. She wore a simple blue blouse and black trousers. Her hair was pulled back neatly. She looked calm even as her hands trembled slightly. "Good morning," she began. "My name is Naomi Brooks. I've been a barista, a cleaner, a driver, and a mother. And until last week, nobody in this room knew my name." The room was silent. "I'm not here to talk about business. I'm here to talk about courage. The courage to love someone despite judgment. The courage to stand by them when others walk away." She glanced at Julian, who gave her a small nod. "Julian Carter chose to be with me, not because I fit the image of a CEO's partner, but because he remembered who I was beneath the uniform, because he saw me when others didn't." Edgar shifted, uncomfortably. "What scares you," Naomi continued, "isn't me. It's the idea that success can come from something you don't control, that real love doesn't ask for permission." A few younger board members sat up straighter. One older woman even smiled slightly. "This company has always been about the future," she said. "So ask yourselves, what kind of future do you want to lead?" She stepped back. The room was quiet for a long time. Then a voice called out. "Vote now," said the chairman. Devices were tapped. Seconds passed. Then the results appeared on the screen. Julian Carter, 55%. He remained CEO. Relief washed over Julian's face. He turned to Naomi, his eyes filled with gratitude. After the meeting, Edgar stormed out, silent and stiff. Other members shook Julian's hand, some more warmly than others. A few approached Naomi, thanking her for her honesty. Later that evening, Julian knocked on Naomi's door. He held a small velvet box in his hand. "I know this is fast," he said, "but I've loved you for half my life, and I don't want to waste the other half without you." He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring. "Will you marry me, Naomi Brooks?" Naomi blinked back tears. She didn't think. She just said yes. Weeks later, the headlines changed. Not scandal, not shame. Just a story of love that endured. From rideshare to romance. How Julian and Naomi changed the game. But they didn't care about the stories anymore. Instead of a big wedding, they chose a quiet ceremony in a city garden, with Sophia standing proudly beside her mother. Marta wept through most of it, and even a few board members showed up smiling. Sophia soon started working as a designer at a new architecture branch funded by Carter Innovations. Her ideas were bold and fresh, just like her mother's spirit. Naomi didn't stop working altogether. Instead, she started a local program for single mothers who needed flexible work, helped by a quiet donation from Julian. They didn't try to live in a perfect world. They built their own, full of second chances, laughter, and soft morning light. In their quiet kitchen one morning, Julian poured coffee and handed her a cup. "Still hate it?" Naomi asked. "Still pretending?" He smiled. They clinked mugs. And, somewhere outside the noise of headlines and judgment, two hearts kept beating for each other, not for the world to see, just for the life they finally found together.